In several of my recent videos, I've talked about how unconquerable Zenobia seems, and yet here we are, looking at not one, but two rally reports of a Zenobia city garrison getting wrecked. In this video, we've got footage of this player getting zeroed from 80 million power, and we've also got a player at 97 million power who used a Theodora garrison, and they get zeroed too. So stick around in this video to see the unconquerable commanders getting conquered. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and today we're going to watch two very high-power players getting zeroed. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. We're a sponsored content creator, and because so many of you liked my last video, where we had footage of players getting imprisoned and multi-rallied and swarmed, because you all liked that so many times, we said, okay, we're going to hunt for more of that kind of footage and get you some amazing stuff to see. And here we're seeing Zenobia, the unconquerable garrison commander. We made two videos about how we couldn't beat them, getting completely wrecked. Now, she is paired with a Constantine here, and there's a bunch of things we don't know that could contribute to the outcome that you're watching unfold on your screen. A part of this could very simply be they don't have their equipment on their Zenobia. A part of this could be that they just don't have the right build on their Zenobia. But there's a little bit more going on here that we need to unpack as well, because the pairing is Constantine. Zenobia with Constantine. They're now down to 72 million power. And the thing about Constantine, he's a great commander to defend your city. He's actually amazing. I like the 40% infantry health, although I prefer stats to all commanders, and the expertise on Constantine does that. He gives, I think, 15% attack and 5% defense to all of the troops in your city. That is amazing. You're giving stats to your archers, infantry, cavalry, and your siege units too. That's very good. The problem with Constantine and a Zenobia pairing, and we saw this all unfold in our previous videos with Zenobia, is that, the fourth skill of Constantine reduces the effectiveness of your healing once you get below 50%. So that seems really, really bad. And the Constantine is actually very good against cavalry, which now they're rallying with cavalry. But earlier they were rallying with archers, and those archers did some serious work. So from what we've seen, Constantine's not an amazing pairing, and that might just be the best commander you happen to have for your wall. But I don't know, I would argue maybe even a Charles Martel would be better. They're down to 59 million power at this point. Here comes another rally, ridiculous. And they timed a lot of these rallies really well. We've cut up the footage to save you the trouble of waiting between all the rallies here. So it's going to be very fast-paced. We're watching this at 2x speed. This is Zenobia, the unconquerable Zenobia. In addition, this player might not be on their own territory. In fact, they have to not be on their own territory. But the opposing side might have territory underneath this player, is what I was actually angling at. So they may be getting a damage buff as well from being on territory. But at this point, they're low enough to swarm, and so that swarm is happening. I did not expect to see a player who has a Zenobia getting rallied and swarmed in this way. Absolutely crazy. So this brings us to an interesting question. Is Zenobia a good commander for city defense? And I'm going to say there are things that are good, but there are certainly things that could be better. Zenobia gives stats to infantry only. And I prefer commanders that give stats to all units, as I was describing earlier. The same is true with Constantine. One of his skills is dedicated to infantry. And unless this city was overtrained on infantry, then you know what? That's not going to be as good as something buffing all stats. And the other piece of the puzzle that I bet you happened here is this player probably had been fighting for a very long time. They probably were garrisoning a lot with their infantry. I bet you they're even low on infantry right now. So having a commander that boosts a bunch of infantry stats might even be nearly worthless, which is crazy to say, but here they are, fully zeroed, 54 million power, 350,000 kills. If I remember correctly, about 90,000 of those were T1. That's right, there it is. 90,000 were T1. But the rest of that's honestly pretty legit and pretty impressive. So a bummer that this player has been zeroed. Congratulations, however, to the victors. Unbelievable watching this Zenobia be taken down. So in this next set of rallies you're going to watch is the Theodora primary and Charles Martel. Actually, it might be the Charles Martel primary, but for some reason visually, yeah, okay. It is Charles Martel primary, but we're seeing the Theodora portrait show up, which is a little weird. Attila Takeda rally there. Took that down to 96 million power, and for whatever reason, they canceled. And look at these siege units. I left this in the video because I thought, like, oh my god. They just lost all their siege. Like, that's 100% dead troops. No question about it. Okay, so here is the next rally on its way in. Another Attila Takeda. And as I was describing earlier, a commander like Theodora, who buffs all troop types, is really powerful, especially in the situation where, like, you've sent a lot of one specific type of troop to their doom in Kingdom versus Kingdom. Being able to buff all the troop types is really good. And a commander like YSS, for example, who gives an astonishing amount of stats. If I'm remembering correctly, it's like 90% of stats to all units. It's really insane how good that is for your city defense, right? That adds up really quickly for being very, very powerful. So my favorite commanders to defend a city, as we watch, by the way, a triple Attila Takeda rally doing work on this Charles Martel Theodora combination here. Wow. Wow. I do like the Theodora, by the way, for clearing debuffs too. She's going to clear the Fierce as the Fire debuff from the Takeda, which is very, very important here for this battle, especially because there's 3 of them, which could get very out of hand. I guess they'll be reapplying them so fast, though. How much does it really matter? Also, Attila's got a debuff, so pretty impressive stuff going on here. I prefer commanders like Theodora, YSS, Wu Zetian for defending your city, because you have all troop types represented. That is very important. Even Sun Tzu doesn't really care too much about the troop type, and I get we can do better than a Sun Tzu, but you see where I'm going with that. Charles Martel, very good for defending your city. YSG, very good for defending your city, because their garrison skill actually buffs all troop types as well. So those are commanders that do really, really well for defending your city. And you might think like, oh, but, you know, Zenobia is so powerful, 40% of infantry stats. But then I'll just tell you the, you know, very original garrison skills that we have on YSG and Charles Martel, that gives you 10% of stats too, which that's all troop types. That's kind of like 40% of stats. I know it doesn't exactly work that way, okay? You aren't going to overtrain your siege units, but you see where I'm going with this. So here we see a multi-rally situation here, Attila Takeda and an Edward paired with Tamaris. Very solid combination. Not a ton of synergy, actually, between the Attila Takeda and the Edward Tamaris. It's just Edward Tamaris is a very strong rally. Here's another Attila Takeda. In a perfect world, and believe me, I understand it's hard to coordinate this in the middle of a crazy KVK, but in a perfect world, you would have some other rally combination that does high skill damage to take advantage of the Tamaris debuff, which lives on that city for longer because Edward has a slower cycle for clearing the debuff and doing big damage. You can see, however, the Theodora does a lot of punishment. By the way, 79 million power left on this player. They're holding up very, very well. Much better than the previous player, which leads me to believe that this player has their equipment on. Here's a report, by the way. 217,000 for the Edward Tamaris, 381,000 for the garrison. So they were doing some fierce work. Granted, they weren't taking the primary damage from the garrison, which makes a huge freaking difference here. We can see, if we get a look in at these commanders, that the Theodora is expertise. Everybody's expertise. And you can get a look at their stats here to get a sense of like, hey, what do you think? And, you know, I totally understand the idea that you might not have your equipment on your city garrison commander because you were using them somewhere else. You know, I get it. This is a tough one because these are players that are caught offline, which, man, in the very least, if you don't have a backup set of equipment on your garrison captains, that seems like a really good plan for your city defense. Here's another Attila Takeda, followed by an Edward Tamaris, doing some serious work. I really like the Attila Takeda tanking the action here, and that is because 45-ish%, maybe 40% of their damage is from counterattacks. You only do counterattacks to targets that are normal attacking you. So, yeah, really important that the Charles Martel is doing damage to the Attila Takeda. Here's another Attila Takeda. Some emojis going on here because they arrived a little late to that party. In fact, in some ways, a perfect world, you might have staggered those rallies. But this is still really impressive as they swarm it out here to loot some extra resources as well as they finish that off. And some number of swarmers left behind there, taking so much damage after the rally is ended. I try not to swarm cities at the end for this reason. It just goes sideways. Here's another Attila Takeda, by the way. That has just arrived on the topic of staggering rallies. Zoom out, zoom back in. Is that 2? Wait, we have 2 Attila Takedas already working on this city. I mean, really, the attacking alliances here and the attacking kingdom is very, very impressive. In Lost Kingdom 75, not only did they secure Kingsland, but man, I mean, that KVK has had some incredible battling. Really impressive play out by everybody in that KVK. I've been sort of watching and /popcorning, looking for these moments, and this was one that I definitely wanted to share with you. So you can see just how tanky that Charles Martel is, and given how prevalent the Attila Takeda is, in fact, given that it's borderline incorrect to rally a city with anything but at least one Attila Takeda tanking, it makes a ton of sense to have a commander like Charles Martel with some anti-cavalry talents as the primary for defending your city. Seems totally cool to me to use that as a combination. I believe at this point, the rallies might have finished, and there's a lone Charles Martel still hitting the city. Okay, they stopped. New rally. Players lost a lot of power here. Totally crazy. They do have the general. Some extra stats, 10%. I mean, if there's a public service announcement to be delivered here, if you ever think you're going to be offline in Kingdom versus Kingdom, pop a peace shield. Use a longer one than you think you need. More Attila Takedas coming for this multi-rally. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Swarming as well. Always pop a peace shield for longer than you think. And look at that. I zoomed out and back in. There's an Edward that has arrived as well. I mean, they were doing some serious work on this city, but impressive that the city took so many more rallies than the Zenobia, which I think is more a function of the captains and the equipment and the talents all being lined up than it is a function of like Zenobia being good or bad. Granted, I will say that the Ramses does cut the Zenobia healing from those earlier rallies, right? There was a Ramses in there. I mean, Zenobia. Rip Zenobia. My personal plan is to stick with my YSS primary and Theodora secondary for defending my city, even after I have expertised my Zenobia. I just feel that the heal is way too vulnerable, and I like a lot of what she's doing. P.S. Here we've got a Chandragupta and William rally. Chandragupta William rally. Every commander wants a piece of the action here. And, hopefully, it sucks for this player that they've been zeroed, but hopefully at least they've got the footage now to go with it. Down to 58 million power. We're at the point where probably they start to get swarmed a bunch. 160 million takedowns for their account. Very impressive. Here comes another Attila Takeda rally. This city took a really astonishing amount of rallies. So I think if you've got the right setup, you've got good gear, you can handle a fair amount of stuff coming at your city. But looking into our own KVK, Heroic Anthem, the very first, season that's going kind of mainstream outside of the test group that happened initially, I'm feeling pretty hyped for this KVK. It's going to be completely insane. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a thing. Consider doing so. There is probably going to be a lot of city hits because I'll tell you, in the new version of KVK, you can teleport onto territory from another alliance in your coalition. Coalition is a group of alliances that are all sort of get a bunch of benefits and can work together. But you don't get protected from rallies and swarms and being attacked. Only when you're on your own alliance territory are you protected. So if you teleport onto another alliance from your coalition, nope, not protected. So many people are getting that wrong and are getting zeroed in the first round of the sort of test realm for, it's not really, test realm's probably not the right word, but I've got an account in Kingdom 2 and I'm watching this stuff and it's just crazy. It's crazy how many cities are getting zeroed. So I feel bad for this player. They've been zeroed here. Here's some bonus footage of another city getting zeroed. If you like this kind of stuff, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel. Throw a like on the video. If you're looking for more footage just like this, I'll have a card up in the top, both for the video we launched earlier today at the time I'm recording this, and also some other cities getting imprisoned, swarmed, zeroed. The sort of things I think you'll probably appreciate. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.